Okay, in this video, I'll be discussing the basics about editing, and we'll be mainly focusing on the purpose of editing and the software used for editing. And but this will be introduction of the software and the basic functions. And the editing I'm talking about is about the video editing that will include the video and the audio. We have different softwares for this purpose, and in this video I'll be discussing the Premium Pro CS6. Have this thing in your mind that there are different softwares for picture editing as well. Like one of the software is Photoshop. This discussion will be about the video editing. Okay, and have this thing in your mind that the editing part comes in the last part of the production. This production may be a documentary, a short film, or anything that you are producing, maybe a talk show. It will be different from the things we add to the footage in live transmission. So I'll be talking about a recorded production, like a documentary, a short film, or a talk show that is basically recorded. So this editing part comes at the end of this process. So before that, we have pre-production, then production, and then the post-production. The post-production include editing, then the background scores, the color toning, and all those things. So let's first talk about the purpose of editing. If you talk about the purpose of editing, then there are different purposes, and they may vary from these purpose which I have written here, but these are the basics. And the basic purpose of editing will be discussed in next 3-4 minutes. We record things as per what we want to achieve, and in short film and in documentary we record more than what is required. Like especially in documentaries, we record interviews more than what is required for the documentary, because that's part of the qualitative research in which detailed interviews are required. So when we place these footages on the timeline or in the editing software, then we have to remove what is not required, and that will depend upon the content and the technique. Like content will tell you that whether you need to have that particular part of that interview or a particular expression in a short film, and that will be the content. And same is the case if there is some technical issues, if there is some sound issues, or there is some lighting issues in your footage, and you have alternate to that, like you have other scene in which you have recorded that, then you will remove that as well. So as per your content and technique, the first purpose of editing is to have what is required and what is not required. The second purpose of editing is to decide the mood of the scene. Okay, the mood of the scene is basically uh, achieved through different things. Like in editing specifically, if you talk about, I'm not talking about how you record things to create a mood. Now I am talking about you have footage, and in editing you are to decide how to define the mood of the footage or the scene, or even a footage for the documentary. So this is we done with the color toning. So we can change the tone of the color of the footage as per our requirement. Like in short films even, you are if you are to create a dream sequence, any character is dreaming some past, So the tone of the color tone of that specific dream, the speed of that dream, that all you can do in editing, and you can enhance colors in editing, and you can decrease the saturation as well in the saturation in that specific scene. Okay, to remove any error occurred in shoot. This is the part in which when we record things, then we make sure in our production part that we do things without any error. But but in real case we do face errors like there might be a painting behind the character which is which is not required, or you showed naturally there are lights when you record thing, and there might be a cable of the light that might be present there, so you can remove these minor errors occurred during the shoot while you edit. The fourth part is to improve the sound quality. Now, sound quality means there might be some hiss in the in the sound of the footage you recorded, or there might be some continuously sound that occur during the shoot. So we can remove this in the editing part as well. This these purposes will be understood well when you will see the coming part of this video, in which I will give you introduction of the software as well. So the fourth part is to improve the sound quality. And the fifth part is to work on the narrative. What is meant by this? This is the most important part, and um, you must understand this part, that how you can work on the narrative in editing. Narrative is basically how you manage the information. Simple words, narrative in short films and documentaries, where you will give the information in a short film that this particular character has this relation with another character. You may give it in the very first scene, or you may give it in the fourth or fifth scene. Now, when we write script, we have written all these things, but when we finalize films, then we came to know that there might be a possibility that if we change the narrative a bit, so that will enhance the impact of the film. So in editing, by rearranging the footage and rearranging the information, we can work on the narrative as well. In documentary case, if we have interview in documentary, then you can judge whether you want to have the interview in the initial part or in the end part. That is also playing with the narrative, or the concluding statement of any character, whether that should come in the very first part, or the pitch line or the main line or the most important line of an interview, should that come in the very first part of the documentary in the introductory montage, or that should come in the end of the documentary. So this is how you can play with the narrative as well.
And the last part is the computer graphics that you can add in your video. That may include the name strips or any graphic that you want to have in your video. In documentary, mostly we use graphs and we use name strips.